this show the establishment warned you about.
That's right, it's the Dr. Tommy Show. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. We are here the day after the red wave that was supposed to be all over, but it only happened in Florida. Glad you're here. If you want to learn more about the Dr. Tommy Show, go to drtommyshow.com/podcast, and you can learn how to follow us, listen to us, and watch us. Last night was the red wave that never happened. It was going to be, they told us, everybody was predicting it. Even the people on the left, on the media side, were predicting a red wave, and we got only a split decision instead of a knockout victory like it was supposed to be for the Republicans. And we'll talk about a little bit what that means. What it doesn't mean, though, is that there was a problem in Florida, because Florida had a red wave, a real red wave. And Governor DeSantis crushed Charlie Crist the same way that George Foreman crushed Joe Frazier back in 1973. And this is a little bit from his victory speech that he had last night. Just listen here.
Well, thank you so much. You know, over these past 4 years, we've seen major challenges for the people of our state, for the citizens of the United States, and above all, for the cause of freedom. We saw freedom in our very way of life, and so many other jurisdictions in this country wither on the vine. Florida held the line. We chose facts over fear. We chose education over indoctrination. We chose law and order over rioting and disorder. Florida was a refuge of sanity when the world went mad. We stood as a citadel of freedom for people across this country and indeed across the world. We faced attacks. We took the hits. We weathered the storms. But we stood our ground. We did not back down. We had the conviction to guide us, and we had the courage to lead. We made promises. We made promises to the people of Florida, and we have delivered on those promises. And so today, after 4 years, the people have delivered their verdict. Freedom is here to stay.
That is the future president, I believe, of the United States. And until today, or until yesterday, I didn't believe it was going to be that way, because not because of anything having to do with Ron DeSantis, but because of the way that the thing was going to play out with Donald Trump. But after this election, it has shown to me that Donald Trump, his time has passed. Donald Trump, after the election, went on to say that, and before the election, was saying that DeSantis was not going to be the guy to carry the mantle of the GOP in the next election. This election has shown me that after this, Donald Trump's time has passed, and it's time to for him to take his golden watch, as they say, and accept his retirement. Thank him for his service, because the way he has conducted himself around the time of this election and just afterwards tells me that he's not going to be able to make it. And this movement, this MAGA movement that we have here, is because of Donald Trump, only in part. Donald Trump was the guy who took the MAGA movement and won the election against all odds, against the media, against the establishment in his own party, against the Democrat machine, and he beat Hillary Clinton. And he took MAGA and he was able to change things and try to drain the swamp. He got some things right, he got some things wrong, and he did a commendable job when he was president of the United States. But the MAGA movement did not start with Donald Trump. The MAGA movement may have been named by Donald Trump, but the MAGA movement really, in my lifetime, started around 2010 with the Tea Party. And the general lack of belief in the system from both sides of the Democrats and the Republicans, and that was the Tea Party. The Tea Party was in my experience, the first time that people who were conservative basically believed that both sides of the aisle were screwed up, and then there had to be a different way, and that third way was what was the Tea Party, and which came to full fruition later on as Donald Trump and in the presidency. Now, before the election, Donald Trump was saying that Ron DeSantis was not really accepting his spot. And he alluded to this a few times, saying through leaks and various different things that he made Ron DeSantis. And before that, it was just leaks. But here we are. This is from the New York Post. This was before the election. It says that Ron DeSantis' lawyer, who is Alina Habba, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Habba. This is what she said. DeSantis is DeSantis because of Trump. I think I like what DeSantis is doing in Florida, but he needs to stay in Florida, Hobbs said. He's not ready yet. And then Trump says he's going to make a big announcement next week. Now, you have to understand, when she's talking like this is her talking, but this is actually Donald Trump. This is Donald Trump's lawyer. This is what Donald Trump believes, and this is what's been leaked out before. And then you had, before the election, he called Ron DeSantis Ron DeSanctimonious, and that was made a big deal about it in the media. And then we were supposed to think that, this was the beginning of the rift. Well, apparently the rift's been going on for a while now. There was rumors of it before, and now we have a full-on confirmation of this quote-unquote rift, or this thing that's going on between Ron DeSantis and Trump, where DeSantis is seen as a threat to Trump. And so after the election, this Ron DeSantis beats Christ, and then Trump says that DeSantis has to stay basically on the sidelines and allow him, being Trump, to take his spot as the nominee for the next election in 2024. And so I don't know what he's thinking, but I think the majority of people have seen this play out, and they know that Trump is not going to be able to probably carry the election in 2024. The way it is standing, the way this election's gone, this midterm election, it wasn't a bloodbath necessarily for the Republicans, but it wasn't the red wave that was supposed to be. And only a few of the people that Donald Trump was able to endorse were able to get elected. And one of them was J.D. Vance. But there was a lot of people that Trump was supposed to be able to push over through the power of his endorsement, and was not able to. And then Trump is also, I think he's damaged himself, and the way he's basically said that if DeSantis does run, then there's going to be some stuff come out that Trump knows about DeSantis, and that's not a good way to go about. That's not a good way to go about convincing people to support you if you're the president nominee. This is what Trump says. This is from Newsweek. Trump says, I don't know if he's running. I think if he runs, he could hurt himself very badly. I really believe he could hurt himself badly. And this was talking to Fox News. I think he would be making a mistake. I think the base would not like it. I don't think it would be good for the party. I would tell you some things about him that won't be very flattering. I know more about him than anybody, other than perhaps his wife. That line right there, to me, is what did it. That line right there told me that Trump does not have the emotional composure to be able to successfully be the president again in 2024, as much as it pains me to say that, because I've been one of the people who supported Trump throughout the years, saying that, Trump's Trump. He might be a little crazy. He may be a little, he's not orthodox, but that's part of what makes him effective. That being said, now that Trump has shown himself to me, he's not going to be the one to be able to do this, because nobody should be attacking a person like Ron DeSantis, who is by all means the most successful Republican in the United States, politically alive today. Nobody who views himself as a part of a team, of a Republican team, should be attacking Ron DeSantis the way he just said that. He says, I will tell you some things about him that won't be very flattering. I know more about him than anybody other than perhaps his wife. That, to me, is a disqualifying factor, even more so than the Ron DeSanctimonious thing, which you could say, well, that's just a nickname. He called Ted Lion Ted, and he called little Marco, and now they're all friends again. This tells me that there's something up his sleeve, and he's trying to damage DeSantis, perhaps beyond repair, in order for him to be able to win the 2024 election. And to me, that's disqualifying for someone who's trying to seek the presidential nomination in 2024, as Trump is going to try to do, I suppose, next week when he is going to make his big announcement. Now, Florida is, you can probably say Florida is the most conservative state in the union. Florida is the most conservative state in the union. In this past election, we saw kind of a solidifying, I guess you say, of the philosophies of the different states, because we have the blue governors in Michigan, New York, and Oregon who all held serve. So Michigan, Whitmer beat Dixon. In New York, Hochul beat Zeldin. And in Oregon, it looks like Kotek and Drazen are still neck and neck. But in California, obviously, Gavin Newsom still won. So that's what happened in the blue states. And then you have over in the red states, North Dakota, Kristi Noem won, Texas, Abbott won, Florida, DeSantis won, Georgia, Brian Kemp won. So basically the states held serve, and there's a few states that are up in the air. Arizona now, Hobbs and Lake are going at it, and Hobbs is surprisingly ahead of Lake, even though all the polling going into it showed that Hobbs was going to be probably the big loser. It's interesting because she's a Secretary of State as well, so she's able to simultaneously run for the office that she is also supervising the election of, which a lot of people said was not very on the level. But anyway, so Arizona is kind of a toss-up state. But overall, the states held. So the states that were blue stayed blue. As far as governors are concerned, the states that were red stayed red. And so what you're having now is this further solidifying of the philosophies of the states. A lot of these states that are blue also enacted policies or legislation, referenda, to say that abortion is a right in their state now. So they've written it into the Constitution. Several of these states have passed different types of legal consensus that says that abortion is now sacrosanct in our state, and it is basically a human right. And so what you're seeing now is there's states like Florida where we're saying, look, we're going to start making things even more conservative here. They passed the 15-week abortion ban here. And then you have the other states where they're saying, look, we're going to make things even more liberal in our state. So you're seeing this further divide, which some people will lament. I don't think it's necessary to lament that, because basically that's federalism at hand. What is dangerous, though, is that the blue states are in lockstep with the federal government at the same time. We had a federal government that was basically neutral. If we had a federal government that followed the Constitution, that did not try to enact travel bans, did not try to enact vaccine mandates, and try to enact all these other things, everything would be fine. The liberals could have their liberal states, and the conservatives could have their conservative states, and we wouldn't have a big deal. But the problem is that the federal government is overwhelmingly on the side of an activist government, at least as it is now. Plus the fact that no matter who's in office, like we learned with Trump, it doesn't matter if Trump's in office, it doesn't matter if it's Biden in office. The government, the fourth branch of government, the administrative state, is going to always be entrenched, and is always liberal. It's always a progressive. It's always going to be in favor. And when I say liberal and progressive, I basically mean it's going to be in favor of bigger government. Liberalism and progressivism is synonymous with big government. And so big government, liberalism, progressivism are tied together. And the federal government is pro-government. The federal government is pro itself. It is like an organism that seeks to benefit itself at all turns. And that's the same with all the bureaucracies and all the smaller parts of the government. The Department of Education exists to benefit itself. The Department of Defense exists to benefit itself. All the different factions within the Department of Defense all exist to benefit themselves, the Army and the Navy. So everyone's always fighting for their own pie. They're always fighting to get their budget bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's the federal government in general. So that's the problem with the federal government. And when you have the states, is that the federal government is always going to fall on the side of the states that are progressive or who are pro-government states. And so we have this kind of this solidifying of the different factions within the country of the conservative states, the blue states, and the red states. But the federal government's always going to be on the side of progressivism because of that permanent bureaucratic fourth branch of government, the administrative state. And so what we're going to have to deal with is coming up in 2024 from the Republican standpoint is what are we going to do about how do you run against that? How do you run? If you nominate someone like DeSantis, who is more acceptable, let's say, to all Republicans. So there's the suburban moms, at least at this point, haven't been turned off yet. Have to keep them away from watching The View and keep them away from CNN. And then hopefully they won't get turned off on DeSantis, because you know that they're going to turn on DeSantis now starting today with 100% of their power. They're probably going to start to ignore Donald Trump. What they're going to do is use Donald Trump as a cudgel against DeSantis. But they're going to stop trying to destroy Trump. I think they're going to let Trump just do what he's doing, but they're going to try to use Trump to destroy DeSantis, and they're going to use him as a tool. And Trump, because he's Trump, is going to accept that challenge, and he's going to try to destroy DeSantis because he thinks that DeSantis, as his lawyer says, is not staying in his lane, and DeSantis is taking the spotlight from Trump. So Trump is going to play into the hands of the media, unfortunately, I believe, and he is not going to take a step back and acknowledge that his successor is DeSantis, because his pride won't let him do it. He wants to be president still. And it just so happens his time has passed. His time has passed, and it's not because he's ineffective, but because there's someone who's more effective who's there. And Donald Trump hopefully would realize that for the sake of his country, for the sake of his party, that he has to realize what's going on. But I don't know that his pride would allow that to happen. But what's going to happen is you're going to have DeSantis. He's going to be set upon by these wolves in the media, by the Coven and on the View. They're going to meet and they're going to hatch up all these different scenarios where now DeSantis is a person who is just as evil as Donald Trump. He is just as dastardly as Donald Trump, and maybe even worse. I did remember seeing that back a few months ago, how about DeSantis was even worse than Trump because of that. Because DeSantis did not have Trump's negatives, he was even more dangerous. And so you're going to see this. They're going to say DeSantis is Trump with all the bad things that Trump has. The bad things meaning things that are having to do with freedom, For the way they look at it, DeSantis is bad because he believes in limited government. That's the worst thing possible to the left. He also believes in personal freedom. That's the second most worst thing possible to the left. He believes that there's a right to self-defense. He believes in he's a pro-life person, and then you go down the line. So they're going to say these are all the terrible things about DeSantis. But what makes him even more dangerous is he's a little bit more clever than Trump. Trump goes out there and he's an easy target. He sets himself up to be an easy target for us. DeSantis is a little bit more dangerous. So they're going to even paint him as being more dangerous. So what you got now is you got DeSantis. He's going to try to run for president in 2024. And he's going to be running against. He's going to be having some headwinds against him because you have this. The way that our elections are set up for Republicans to lose. Why do I say that? Well, the governorship, for instance, the governors the elections themselves are set up for Republicans to lose because elections don't happen on election day. Elections happen. It's election week, in some cases election weeks. So you have this built-in ability for the Democrats, who have a machine unlike any other in history, because they've been doing this since the beginning of electoral politics. They've been building these machines, and the machine politics of the Democrats allows them to go into all of these neighborhoods, allows them to go to all these civic organizations, allows them to go into the nursing homes, allows them to go into all these different places and get ballots. They can get ballots and they mail them in, and they mail them in exceedingly efficiently. And the way they win elections is by mailing in ballots, basically. They win elections by mailing in ballots ballots. They win elections by vote by mail. They win elections through ways other than they win elections through early voting. So they get all these people who are otherwise maybe not inclined to vote, or not as enthusiastic to vote as, say, your average Republican, and then they say, well, look, we're going to make it easy for you. We're going to bring the bus by. You're going to have your ballot. We're going to help you fill out your ballot. Everybody's going to get on. We're going to have a trip. We're going to go down there and we'll all drop off our ballots, or whatever the case is. They get all these ballots together, and then they have a more efficient way to get people to produce votes for their party. Republicans don't do that, because Republicans by nature vote on their own. They want to vote. I'm not saying that all Democrats don't want to vote. I'm sure there's people out there that want to go. But Republicans don't go to nursing homes, for instance, and say, let's gather up ballots and get people to vote. They don't organize neighborhoods the way Democrats do. And if you don't believe this is true, you can look it up yourself. But in Democrat neighborhoods, they'll go door to door and asking people for their ballots. There was a lady in Orange County who actually was a whistleblower for this. But I've been reading about this for a long time. Especially in the cities, in the inner city neighborhoods where they have these, and that's why Democrats always want to have big cities, because the more people you put in a big city, the more likely it is to be Democrat, and the easier it is to turn out the vote. And I was reading before, this was back in National Review, was something that you would read. You don't want to read it now. They even have a paywall now, but back in the day, National Review used to be a pretty good read for conservatives. And Jesse Jackson was talking about this program they have called Knock and Drag. And basically they knock on the door and drag your ass to the polls to vote. And so that's the type of way that Democrats vote. And so they're able to churn out big numbers for votes. And unless you're able to do the same thing on the Republican side, there may not be a good way to win a presidential election in the future for Republicans, because more and more they're trying to get towards mail-in voting. Even in Florida here, we had a large part of the vote was mail-in voting. It just so happened we were able to win still, and win handily. But overall, in general, Republicans prefer to vote on a day of election, and Democrats like to drag the process out, have mail-in voting, early voting, all these different ways to vote, because you can get people who are less motivated to go vote. So it's like having 6 bites at the apple instead of 1. If you're a voter and you're at home and you say, well, it's time to vote, and I think I want to go vote for Ron DeSantis, but there's also one of my programs on Netflix, and I want to watch this next episode of Dahmer. And before you know it, you watch 3 or 4 episodes of Dahmer, and it's 6:30 and the polls are closing, and you're like, well, maybe I don't want to vote for DeSantis after all. We'll replay that. And let's say that you're not sitting there on the election day, but you're sitting there 3 or 4 weeks before election day. And then you say, well, I have all of next week to go vote, and I'm going to go vote for Charlie Crist. And today I'm not going to vote for Charlie Crist, and tomorrow I was busy. But then you have 4 or 5 more days you're going to vote, and then one of those days you actually get in there, you get to vote for Charlie Crist. So you don't have this need to be able to just drop whatever you're doing and make it a priority. It's kind of more of a when I get around to it, I feel like I'm going to vote. And then plus, if you're in one of these neighborhoods where they have these local machines where the precinct people come around and they whip the vote up for the people to go vote. This is all the things that are going to put Republicans behind the 8 ball in the next election. So the outcome of this election is a split decision, I think, and it's disappointing to have a split decision, but that's not a loss. There's a time when you can go into a fight thinking you're going to get a knockout. George Foreman back in the day was on the comeback trail. He had fought Evander Holyfield for the title in 1991 and lost. Then he came on the comeback trail and he fought this guy named Jimmy Ellis, who was a tomato can. He knocked him out, stopped him in a few rounds. And then after that, he was going to fight this other guy, and this other guy's name was Alex Stewart. And Alex Stewart was supposed to play the part of the tomato can too and get knocked out in a hurry. And Alex Stewart had been already knocked out by Mike Tyson in similar fashion. I'm sure that's why George Foreman picked him, because he thought this guy's going to get smoked by me the same way Mike Tyson smoked him, because Alex Stewart, apart from being a very big heavyweight, a big, rugged, good hitting heavyweight, had a little bit of fear in him. And then when he fought Tyson, Alex Stewart looked like a deer in the headlights, and he got run over by Tyson with minimal effort. Not to say that he wouldn't have been beat by Tyson eventually, but he got knocked out by Tyson minimal effort. Anyway, comes to fight George Foreman, comebacking George Foreman, and Alex Stewart actually put up a big fight against Foreman after he was knocked down twice. So Alex Stewart is knocked down twice early in the fight. Looks like it's going to be a blowout. The same thing. We've seen this show before. And then he did something that was unusual. He stood up and he showed some courage, and he actually beat George Foreman's face to a pulp. Literally beat George Foreman's face to a pulp. And at the end of the fight, there's a lot of people who thought that Alex Stewart won the fight. Alex Stewart lost by majority decision. And that's what happened to us last night. The Republicans lost by majority decision. They didn't get knocked out. They didn't get upset. They're going to, looks like they're going to pick up one of the houses. Or, I'm sorry, they're going to pick up the House. But they didn't win the knockout that they were supposed to win. And that's what is going to be the storyline going into 2024, is that can the Republicans recover from that, and can they also implement some type of something to make the voters want to vote for them more, because the voters didn't want to vote for them a lot, which is very surprising, because if you look at it, what did Democrats have to vote for? So in a place like, let's pick Michigan, for instance. In Michigan, voters voted for Whitmer over Dixon, okay? And so the voters of Michigan were saying what? We like lockdowns. We like being told that we can't buy seeds when it's the coronavirus is going on. We like our kids being sent home from school and kept home from school. So that's what people voted for in Michigan over Dixon. What did they vote for in New York? Well, Kathy Hochul over Zeldin. Well, they say, we like voting for hellacious crime problems. We like voting for no bail, no cash bails, so people who are convicted can get out right away and commit more crimes. We also like voting for lockdowns. So this is the thing that you have to decide as if you're running for president or running for national office, or if you're the leader of a party like McCarthy, is how do you get a message across to people who are otherwise inclined to vote for people like this? Where's the common ground? Is there a common ground? How do you, as a presidential candidate like Ron DeSantis in 2024 potentially, or how do you, as the leader of the Republicans, if they win the House, if Kevin McCarthy is made the majority leader, how do you fashion a argument that you have the good ideas if the people in these states want to vote for Whitmer, if they want to vote for Hochul, if they want to vote for shutdowns, they want to vote for no cash bail. They are basically liberal or progressive or left wing. How do you, is it, I don't know. I guess the point is that's what's the point of the Electoral College, because you have to go through and figure out how many states can I cobble together that don't believe that, and just leave those other states to their own, because I don't know how you make common ground with a state full of voters who prefer someone to be their governor who prefers lockdowns. Because I take that to think that those people in that state prefer lockdowns. And there's no way you're going to send a guy like Ron DeSantis in there who says, I like freedom, to someone who says, I like lockdowns. I don't understand how that's going to work. This is a little bit more about what happened with DeSantis. So this is from the Blaze, and it says DeSantis carried Miami-Dade County by 11 points. So Miami-Dade County, for those of you who aren't familiar, is a place in Florida which is heavily Democrat. He lost it by 20 in 2018. DeSantis carried Hillsborough County, where I'm sitting now, by 9 points. He lost it by 9 in 2018. So that was an 18-point swing in four years. DeSantis carried Osceola County, which is Orlando, by 7 points. Listen to this. Lost it by 21 in 2018. And also, Orlando, interestingly enough, is where Disney is located. And DeSantis famously had a big throwdown with Disney. DeSantis carried Palm Beach County. This is a big one. By 3, lost it by 17 in 2018. That's another big Democrat stronghold. And here's another one. Duval County. He lost it by 4.5 points in 2018. He won it by 13 this past time. So DeSantis knows how to maybe do what I was talking about just then. Maybe he's the guy to be able to fashion a message that reaches across to people who are otherwise not inclined to vote for you. So this is another thing. This is talking about Trump and DeSantis. This is another thing. It's talking about Trump and DeSantis, and this is Lee Zeldin had a backer named Dov Hickland, and he said that what's it say here? This is what he had to say about DeSantis. He goes, he said that we're all disappointed looking at the bigger picture, but what was supposed to happen was we're supposed to have great victories across the country. But he made the point that I was making earlier. He says, I would like to say to the former President Trump, who I supported and did great things during this term, I'd like to say to him, move on. A couple of days before the election, he tells the country he has a major announcement. Donald Trump, it was not about you. It was about the candidates who were running, and you took that away from them. There's no question he hurt candidates all over this country. So this guy's saying that Donald Trump did hurt the candidates because of his unwillingness to cede the room to the people who were actually running for office at that time, and he tried to make it all about himself, this, according to this guy. And I think in a lot of ways that is true, that Donald Trump was not able to step aside and allow the candidates to be the candidates, and he wanted it to be about him. What else here? Oh, this is interesting. This is from Newsweek again. It says, according to bookmakers, DeSantis is favored over Trump, and it says here, bookmakers are now naming DeSantis as a new frontrunner after a number of Trump's endorsed midterm candidates, many who backed the false claims to the 2020 election was stolen, failed to win their contests. That's Newsweek. According to William Hill, DeSantis is now 5-2 to win the 2024 presidential election, with Trump 3-1. So that's a slight edge to DeSantis as far as the bookmakers are concerned. DeSantis is 9-4 to win, according to Irish bookmaker Paddy Power, and 7-2 for Trump. And then they have Sky Bet has DeSantis as a favorite, 5-2, and Trump 10-3. So slight edge for DeSantis over Trump, according to these odds makers. So that's interesting. So overall, I think the take-home message from this post-election that we're still going through. We still have a number of seats up for grabs, according to Fox News. There is not. Let's see. There's projected winner now. Just now came across projected winner Ron Johnson. So that's good. Ron Johnson was projected to keep his seat in the Senate, but there's a number of places that are still left in play. Let's see what they say here. Fox News. Republicans now have 203 seats, and there are 175. This is in the House, 175 for Democrats, and it takes 218 to win. And it's calculating now how many are left in play. So I'll get back to that. There are 3 seats left in play in the Senate. So let's see what that shows here. So Ron Johnson was just projected to win the Senate. So let's see what they have here. There's some toss-up races still. Mark Kelly is an incumbent over Blake Masters. They have not counted all of the votes from Maricopa County yet, so they have not declared a winner yet. And that was a complete catastrophe there in Maricopa County, where they had ballot machines going down left and right, and people weren't able to vote. And then we have Michael Bennett. He won. I'm sorry. See who else is there. The Kerry Lake is still, likewise in Arizona, that's still up in the air. What else do we have here? So the House, like I said, looks like there's going to be a majority for the Republicans. It's still not known how many, and it may take several weeks for some of those results to come in. Sarah Palin lost in Alaska. She and the other Republican combined for about 51%. And then the Democrat then was allowed to get in because there was two Republicans running against each other, because Alaska has this crazy ranked choice voting where you rank your choices by 1, 2, 3 versus just picking who you want. And so that allowed this Mary Peltola to win. She's the at-large, the sole representative now in Alaska. Let's see what else. So the big loser, one of the big losers was Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz lost to John Fetterman, who by all accounts is not capable of being a senator because of his health problem, because of his stroke. That being said, he's now the senator-elect from Pennsylvania. And that goes back to saying is, how do you reach a state, which Donald Trump won in 2016? How do you reach a state with a message to say, vote for me if you're a conservative, when they are willing to vote for John Fetterman, who is a person who is most interested in, and this is his own words, eliminating the death penalty, not even the death penalty, eliminating life in prison for everybody. He doesn't think anybody should ever have life in prison. He thinks that's a bridge too far. So if you're a child rapist, murderer, you should not have life in prison. That's just one of the things that he believes in, among all the other left-wing kook things that he believes in. So how do you go about convincing a person like that then to vote for you because you're a conservative? If the majority of the state, the voters, vote for a guy like that, I don't know how you do it. What else we got here? So New York, like I said, Kathy Hochul, she won over Lee Zeldin. And then there was a few long shots that were actually polling very well. Don Bolduc in New Hampshire, he lost. And so I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be interesting coming up, though. The new spin from the media is going to be the destruction of the Republican Party through fighting between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. They're going to promote that. If Donald Trump, I hope, does not feed into this, because if he does feed into this, it's going to be a long 2 years. It's going to be an ugly 2 years. And he's not going to end up helping himself, for sure, his legacy. And he's not going to help DeSantis. He's not going to help the party. And he is not going to help the country. And I believe that in his heart of hearts, Donald Trump wants good for this country. I also believe in his heart of hearts, the most important thing to Donald Trump is Donald Trump. And he believes that his well-being is directly tied to the well-being of the country. I don't believe that he thinks that stepping aside is in the best interest of the country. I think Donald Trump believes that he is the only one who can lead us out of this problem that we have here with high inflation, with crime, with illegal immigration, with, frankly, unconstitutionalism, with the way that we go about just rampant spending and just all of the different things that are the problems that we have on the national level. I think he's the one that thinks that he can fix all those, and he's the only one that thinks he can fix them. And because that is the most important thing, is fixing those problems, I think he has convinced himself that he is the only one that can do it, and therefore the means justify the ends. So in order for him to be the nominee, in order for him to get elected, because he thinks he's the only one that can fix our problems, no matter what happens in the intervening times, if it means destroying Ron DeSantis, then so be it. And I don't think that's the way to go. And I hope there's people around him that are going to convince him otherwise. But having watched Donald Trump now for probably 7 years, I know for a fact that he is his own counsel, and I doubt there's anybody who could convince him otherwise. It seems like the only person that he does listen to is his son-in-law, and who knows what his son-in-law will tell him. Most of the time, I think his son-in-law leads him astray because his son-in-law is liberal. But anyway, so we'll see. This is Ron DeSantis, though. This is his time to shine, his time to relish in his victory. It's time for Republicans in the Florida to relish their victory. Election victories, and it's time for us to look forward to coming 2 years and see what's going to happen. In the meantime, we're going to be stuck in the same place we are now. I think there's going to be basically nothing done to fix inflation. There's going to be nothing done to fix the border, and there's going to be nothing done to fix our standing in the United States. In the world from the United States standpoint. And pressuring countries not to be ill actors, such as Russia invading Ukraine, China invading Taiwan, and North Korea sending out missiles threatening Japan and South Korea. All of that's going to stay. It's like a wound that's just going to fester now for 2 more years, and we have to hope that by 2 more years that we can find someone to have a cure for that wound, because there is a good chance by the end of 2 more years, like I said, China will be invading Taiwan. And there's also a good chance that in addition to all the international things that are threatening us, we're going to continue to be threatened from within through people like the people who are like on the left, who want us to be shut down, want to take away our rights to bear arms. They want to take our rights to have freedom of assembly by making us feel like if you do anything to act against them, that you're threatening our democracy, as they say. And so this is going to be as they say, our fight has just begun. And so we have won here in Florida. If you're a conservative, you're winning in Florida. But overall, you still have to keep your guard up, because the threats are still there for our country internationally, for our country from within. And we're just going to have to keep our wits about us, and also keep your eye on the ball. Don't fall for the Democrat hoopla, though. The Democrats and the media are going to try to destroy the Republicans by using Donald Trump. Don't fall for that. And to Donald Trump's supporters and Donald Trump himself, it's time to let Donald Trump enjoy his retirement, because I think his time has passed. So for all of you listening, thanks for joining us. Go to drtommy.com/podcast. If you're still listening, subscribe, and we appreciate it. Until next time, bye-bye.